Relax. You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, 9:07. Sorry you missed that, Frosty. Where else would you rather be as a Steelers fan? And with me, as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Rich, how goes it? Yeah, it's funny.
Take it away.
We were getting ready to go, and then I'm like, oh man, there was absolutely nothing all day. Then, right as we get to go, we have a report of the Steelers have agreed to a 1-year deal with former Eagles running back Kenneth Gainwell. So those of you out there, you might not have heard that yet. And before we could go, I had to message Jeff and say, Jeff, we were going live. We're going to talk about it. Can you get the article? Jeff's like, I'm on it, as a good senior editor that Jeff Hartman is. Before we get into the whole show, since this just happened, Rich, let's talk about it, which is funny because we've talked about how it's been a giant waiting game, and now we actually get a little something right whenever we go onto the air. Rich, what do you think of
that? Running back depth.
Yep.
Need it. Yeah. I'm sure it's a very friendly contract. So,
yeah. So, just to give you a little bit about Kenneth Gainwell, he was a 5th-round pick of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021. So, yes, he finished his 4 years there, and so he was a free agent. He will count towards the compensatory formula as if the salary's enough. That's the big thing. We'll have to see how much they're going to pay him. Here's the thing that's interesting. I just found on Pro Football Reference. He is a cousin to Eagles, I'm going to call him a great, Fletcher Cox.
Yeah.
Interesting. But didn't know that while he was playing there. But he's appeared in 66 games for the Eagles. Apparently missed 1 game in 2021 and 1 game in 2023. Other than that, it was 17 games in the other 2 years. He has 4 total starts in all. His 280 rushing 280 rushing attempts, 1,185 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns. They've decreased each year, but remember last year he was the backup to Saquon Barkley. Also gets involved in the receiving game. He has 102 receptions for 721 yards and a touchdown there in his 4 seasons. To me, this is and that's all regular season stuff. This past year, he had in the playoffs, he had 13 rushes for 42 yards in the Eagles' 4 playoff games, and he had 3 receptions for 26 yards. When it came to postseason numbers. To me, this is a signing. It's not like it really moves the needle, but it's one of those, yeah, okay. I guess we can get that. Right now, we do not have any report of yet. I'll keep looking for it during the show of what that contract would be worth. Just like we don't have any report on a Darius Slay contract, because we're still waiting to make sure that the Eagles release him tomorrow. Don't have any report on that yet either. So there you go, Rich. Anything you want to add about that after hearing about Gainwell?
Actually, you know what? No, because anything I go into is going to get more into the meat and potatoes of the show. So I'm going to hold off there. So
yeah.
Although I do like what Sherry said, I'm going to bring up what Sherry said because
you got it.
Because it's what I thought was thinking as well. That's a sneaky, nice move. Now can we release Patterson? Yeah, we probably will.
I don't see any reason to keep. Oh wait, that's another thing. To Gainwell return kicks, I'm trying to look it up right now. I'm not seeing anything about him. Wait, kick and punt returns. Here we go. not punt return, but he had 18 kickoff returns for 456 yards last year. So to me, that's an upgrade of Cordero Patterson. If that's your RB3,
if that's your
I'm fine with
RB3, I'm okay with that. So,
yeah. So, yeah.
especially because it's going to be a friendlier contract than Patterson's current contract. So,
yes. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the mood of our live chat tonight because we've kind of waited and waited and waited all day. And it's interesting. This was the title I sent to Jeff Hartman as to what I wanted to title our show tonight. Unfortunately, Jeff rewrote it for me, but this is what I had. I had the Scho Bro Show. Waiting on the Steelers to do something for a good podcast title. That's what I wanted to call it because that's what I was doing all day, waiting for them to do something so we could have a good podcast title. Rich, what was your title that you had out there?
as I bring up from what Rogers fan number 12 said, sign Aaron Rodgers tomorrow. Mine was going to be as if we had a little more info of what was going on, if the Steelers were, any more talk of the Aaron Rodgers. I was going to say the Steeler fan, when it comes to free agency, Steeler fans just need to RELAX. So
relax, don't worry.
Well, no, you had to spell it like
yeah. Well, I know, but you're
Aaron Rodgers did,
Yeah.
So
yeah. My thing is, you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers? We can talk about Aaron Rodgers. You want to start off talking about Aaron Rodgers?
Do we have to? But we can.
Oh, how about this? Let's talk about what the Steelers have actually done.
Okay.
Let's do that first. Let's talk about what the Steelers have officially done. They have tendered Jaylen Warren, a second-round tender, which means he's going to have to sign. He didn't have to sign right away because he could work out a deal with the Steelers or work out a deal with somebody else. If he works out a deal with someone else, the Steelers would have the chance to match it. And if they don't, the Steelers would lose Jaylen Warren, but would get a second-round draft pick this year. So I thought they might just do right of first refusal, but they gave him more money. That was in the $5 million range. And that instantly has to count against the salary cap for the Steelers. Once they do it, that has to, because that's why they had until 4:00 on Wednesday, tomorrow, to do it, because when it comes to the restricted free agents, because those tenders count right away. So that's one thing that happened. The Steelers released Larry Ogunjobi, saved $7 million against the cap. To me, you could talk about roster displacement there. Maybe it wasn't saved as much, but Jaylen Warren came in, so I'm just going to count those there. And also they signed Ryan McCall, who he was an exclusive rights free agent, so it's a minimum deal. I mean, there's no guaranteed money, nothing. He doesn't necessarily even have to make the team. Teams don't avoid their exclusive rights free agent unless the player just really wants to go and they want him to go somewhere else. Occam's, I see ya, and we're going to get to that with the super chat shortly. So that's what the Steelers have officially done, according to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know what they haven't officially done yet, according to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
What's that?
Traded for DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
and I had to note that because other news that did happen today was the NFL announced their compensatory picks for this year's draft. Steelers were not expected to get one because I think in all the Steelers had signed 4 players, lost 2 players. You're not eligible for one. You remember last year they signed Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott, Cordero Patterson, and there was someone else in there. So it's funny because when they announced this, there was Eagles fans in the tweet whining and complaining. And I'm just like, I didn't want to look any further. I didn't want to see any Steelers fans. I'm like, I hope there's no Steelers fans there being dumb like the Eagles fans are. It's not from the free agency that's happening right now because technically nobody signed anything. This was from last year's free agency. That affects this year's comp picks.
It takes a full year out before it goes into effect.
Yeah. So
I know I was having fun laughing at Philly fans at that as well. Dave, before you put the Slack channel, I'd already go through it. I was like, Tell me you're an idiot Eagles fan without telling me you're an idiot Eagles fan. Oh, look.
Well, and speaking of idiot, I'm going to bring up another one. Actually, a former colleague of ours at our old stomping grounds that we are all familiar with him being this way, because he was getting into a spat with the Steelers reporter, because the Steelers reporter was talking about the Steelers draft picks before the comp picks came out and said, remember, these aren't the exact numbers after the third round because we don't know the exact comp picks. And this person, you know who I'm talking about, that used to write for us at our former outlet, wanted to just go in and be a complete moron. It's like, oh, well, name a better outlet than the one. He's like, I don't have to name a better outlet. I know Over the Cap does a phenomenal job of projecting the comp picks, but even they would say they're not going to be perfect. So and it's not even like you should give a better guess. It's that you have to realize until the NFL announces the picks, those numbers are estimates. So I've got that article coming out first thing tomorrow morning at steelcurrentnetwork.com of what the Steelers picks are, but it doesn't have the DK Metcalf picks. So it was important for the comp picks to come out for the Steelers because we now know what their selections are, that they are selecting exactly. I know they have 2 7th-round picks, 223 and 229. One of those is supposed to go to Seattle. We just don't know which one yet. But those were way off in estimations in some of places. There was even some places that had the Steelers with 3 7th-round draft picks, but that was an error because they had the Steelers getting a 7th-round pick from Washington for William Jackson III, but they didn't have the Steelers giving up a 6th-round draft pick for William Jackson III. That trade got the conditions of that trade got voided when he didn't play for the Steelers. We all knew that. So, or people paying attention knew that. Now that I spelled all that out, back to DK Metcalf. Rich, you haven't been on a podcast since this has happened. I was on the Breaking News podcast. What did you think about that trade?
Omar got it right. We talked, last year it was we need a wide receiver, need a wide receiver, couldn't get it done. We're in, working on Ayuk, all these different things that were going on, and it just never happened. And so the Steelers rode with it all year and basically said, we're not doing that again. The opportunity came up to get DK Metcalf, and you do it. And in my opinion, you get a hold of the most talented guy that was pretty much rumored to be out there, either free agency or trade. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, and see, I don't know about you. Did you see some clips where there was audio of Coach Tomlin talking to DK various times when they faced each other? That was pretty. That was pretty fun. I know we debated that on the Breaking News podcast. What does this mean to George Pickens? I'm like, it doesn't have to mean anything with George Pickens.
No,
I mean they could go either way. They really could. I could see where they're like, hey, we want to see if we have 2 guys like this, if it works. We want to see if a more mature leader in the locker room who is, hate to say it, he's more decorated than George Pickens. So I would put him as a better receiver than George Pickens, makes a difference with things of that nature. So we'll see how all that goes. All right. So that's not officially announced by the Steelers yet. The other thing, the Steelers have added, let's see, I'm trying to remember. They've reportedly added cornerback Darius Slay. We don't know anything about the contract. Technically, he can't sign until he gets released by the Eagles. But see, no one can sign these deals. No one can sign these deals until 4:00 tomorrow when the league year starts. You can just come to terms. So the terms haven't been announced yet, but apparently Slay's come to terms with the Steelers. But you got to see first, first they have to actually release him. They gave him permission to talk to teams, so he was allowed to do what he was doing. That's one. The Steelers also signed a linebacker from the Ravens. For some reason, his name has escaped me right now. Do you have it? I forget what it is.
It's Harrison, isn't it?
I think you might be right. I'll find it here. All I got to do is find his picture there. Yeah, Malik Harrison. That's the first name. That's a signing that the Steelers have made, which as soon as you did it, you knew that meant Landon Roberts wasn't coming back. And then not long after that, he signed with Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I really like Landon Roberts, so I'm hoping Malik Harrison can do a good job, because if not, I'm going to just pine over not having him. But Malik Harrison also plays special teams. So I can't remember. I wish I could credit them. Whoever brought it up in our Slack channel that this is one player basically taking the place of two of Landon Roberts and Tyler Matakevich. So to be a guy down the depth chart and still play special teams. And then now we have the Gainwell news from this evening, but once again, no idea what the contract is there. Anything you want to say about all of those, Rich?
Can I say something about him and kind of move us forward into something a little different too?
Yes.
Okay. They're all moves that are just fine. And with that, I will say honestly, they are I want to say the typical Steeler moves of early free agency.
Yeah.
So I spent some time after yesterday. Of course, people sat around disappointed. Steelers aren't doing anything. Everybody on the Slack channel's going nuts. I kind of was too. And then this morning I got to thinking, I'm like, you know what? We all sat, we, and I say we, a lot of us at Steel Curtain Network, we've made a mistake. Okay. Now, it's a mistake that I think we were okay to make, or we were okay to start to make some assumptions, and we got it wrong. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that assumption was the Steelers have $60 million in salary cap space, 60, whatever, 4 or 5, whatever it is. And they're going to do things differently than what the Steelers usually do. And guess what the Steelers are doing?
Not anything different.
Exactly what the Steelers typically do. Now, I still think in the end the Steelers are going to do more during this free agency period. There's going to be more happen, only because they have more money to play with than usual. But have the Steelers ever really been big day one free agency people?
Not a ton. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think the thing is I think Patrick Queen last year was on day 2. Yeah. That's why I was expecting something today. And the problem is you kind of need to have a quarterback first. But here, I want to.
Now, hold on. I just was going to finish up. Okay, so the Steelers haven't typically been a big day one mover and shakers, and I think I know why. I think I have an idea of why they would be. If I were a general manager and I were taking the Steelers' approach in free agency, my thing would be this. I'd be very careful about day one stuff. Because on day one of free agency, what tends to happen?
People overpay.
People overpay.
Yeah.
People overpay. And I think the Steelers go into free agency. I think they go into this with a, hey, we're going to look around and do things on day one, but it's kind of like, I wonder if they almost do like they do with their draft board. They get down the people that they're willing to go after and how far they're willing to go. And they basically say, if it goes above this, we're out because somebody's overpaying.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, because this is a big name person just coming across our stuff. That it looks like, Joey Bosa, who was released by the Chargers. That one surprised me when they did that, because I'm not in tune with the Chargers. A lot of people said it was expected. Looks like he signed a 1-year deal with the Buffalo Bills. So, I can't say signed. Agreed to terms. Nobody signed anything. Yep. Remember, nobody signed anything. All right. So now I'm trying to get back. Here's something that just wanted to put out there. There was a tweet today from Dale Lally that I quote tweeted. Dale Lally says, I must have missed the memo this year that the only day teams can acquire any outside talent was on March 10th.
Yeah.
He's got a good point. And here was my quote tweet. You listen to this. I said, this is important to remember. Yeah, this was not the only day. This is not the only time the Steelers could sign someone. Also, it is important to remember that in the first 24 hours, I did this at noon. This is now going to be even fewer now. 72% of CBS's top 50 free agents and 63% of their top 100 free agents have agreed to terms. There is still plenty of time, but not necessarily plenty of options. That's what you have to keep in mind.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's time to sign people, but are your options still there when everyone's signing? Yeah. Afton said, I saw your tweet.
I'd seen your tweet as well.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't have an issue with what the Steelers are doing. Why? Because they're wanting to not overpay. If there was only now, you could make the argument if there was one place the Steelers would have gotten into stuff yesterday and overpaid a bit.
Yeah.
It was at quarterback because they don't have one.
Yeah. I'm going to be really curious of what Slay is at cornerback, because that's another place I thought they might have overpaid, because they don't have anybody that has more than 2 years of experience in the cornerback room right now. So I thought they might, but Slay is old. I mean, he's 34. That goes. It's funny. They're like, well, the Steelers have a certain way that they do free agency until they don't. They used to never sign anybody over 30. And now they agree to terms with a 34-year-old cornerback, which I'm not saying that he can't be good, but it kind of feels a little bit like Patrick Peterson as well. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, you're right. If they would have paid more for quarterback, before we get into quarterback, we're going to get there. What about, and part of this is going to be there, we can save the quarterback for last. The Steelers have lost players in free agency that have agreed to terms with other teams. The big one, people like, you want to talk about overpaying? Look at what Dan Moore Jr. got.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's overpaying. Left tackles are expensive, but I get why the Steelers weren't going to pay him that. But you kind of knew somebody was going to. The thing that surprised me is that he got more money than Ronnie Stanley.
That's kind of, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. Dan Moore Jr. Landon Roberts, we already mentioned to the Raiders. There we go. I was going to say Brian's team. They also lost Najee Harris to the Chargers. That was one that just felt like it was happening for a long time.
Yeah.
That was just, that I expected that one. Dante Jackson also went to the Chargers, right?
Yes.
If I recall. And James Daniels going to the Dolphins. Now, with all those signings and whatnot, right now the Steelers are in line that they've lost a lot more than what they've gained when it comes to compensatory draft picks for next year. I know it was really good article. I had read it first thing this morning, but I didn't share it with anyone. And then someone shared it on our Slack channel where Alan Saunders wrote an article about the Steelers and the comp picks and how they could be setting themselves up to make a big move next year. And a lot of people are saying, they're setting themselves up to they want to draft their quarterback of the future in Pittsburgh. Yeah, that I see that, but the Steelers aren't going to not do.
Yeah.
They're not going to just say, we don't have a quarterback this year. Oh, well, we want to draft him next year in Pittsburgh. Grant, I don't think this year's the year to do it because it's just not the right class in the right situation. Next year might not end up being the right class. I've seen many times where all these quarterbacks that people thought were going to be so great, by the next year, they're not. So it's all projected. So I don't see the Steelers. That could be a benefit, but I don't see that as their main goal is to make sure that they're doing that for next year. But the Steelers could sign a couple. I mean, right there, Gainwell's probably going to cancel one of their picks, but if it's not a very big contract, it's not going to cancel a high pick. Right now, Dan Moore Jr. is projected to potentially bring a third round compensatory pick. But remember, they can't sign too many. But if there are people you can sign if they were released by their teams that they don't count. It's got to be on a contract that expired, not one that was terminated. But of course, the one player I didn't talk about that the Steelers also lost was Justin Fields going to the Jets. Do you want to talk about anybody else that was gone, or do you want to roll into Fields and quarterback stuff?
Let's go into Fields, because really he's the one everybody was thinking, hoping would still be a Steeler.
Okay, so since we're going to go right into that, we're actually going to go ahead and take our break. All right, so we'll come back and talk about the quarterback situation and the giant waiting game going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers right after these messages.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
As Rich was saying before, relax. Don't worry, except you were spelling it and everything. It's funny. We're going to talk about Justin Fields. It's Steeler Chick 46 brings up something, says, personally, we should have picked up Fields' fifth-year option. Couldn't. That decision was made before the Steelers traded for him. So technically, it was the Bears that declined it, and the Steelers didn't have that option. That was a really good point. That would have been a good idea. But that decision was actually made for the Steelers before they drafted him. Or not drafted him. Traded for him. There we go. All right, Rich. So what did you think about the news of Justin Fields going to the Jets?
It was surprising a little bit. Especially when you saw the terms. Yeah. Not. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, the Jets did not overpay to get him. They didn't pay more
than what the Steelers reportedly were offering.
Which, if you want to be honest, the Steelers were lowballing. The Steelers were offering him less than what some quality backups in the league get.
Yeah.
They really were,
yeah.
If that's the number reported from the Steelers.
Yeah.
In which case,
the
then I'm not surprised.
The number reported from the Steelers, so we know, would have been an average of 15 a season. The report was, just take it for what it's worth, I can't remember who exactly it was that they offered Fields 2 years, $30 million with $10 million guaranteed. Or was it $20 million? Bottom line is he got an extra $10 million guaranteed, I think is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, to me, though, part of what that says is that the Steelers as an organization did, like I was saying earlier, they sat down and they said, this is what this guy is worth. We're not going to overpay him. Or what we see as overpaying him. Mm-hmm. So, they didn't.
Yeah.
The issue is going to be is when then they have to turn around and overpay somebody else to get a quarterback on their roster.
That's the thing.
That's going to be the extremely frustrating part.
For example, people have been mentioning everything with the potential because the reports are out there with Aaron Rodgers. People said he was going to make a decision today. Didn't I put it out there? I think he's holding out to announce it on McAfee.
Yeah,
because isn't Wednesday his normal day on there?
I think so.
I mean, and it's going to be before 4:00 when he's even officially released by the Jets. So I think that's what he's doing because they're like, well, wow, how do you keep that a secret? Because he could have maybe even already decided, or he could have even informed teams. And you're like, well, don't you think the teams would get that out there? Usually, it's not the teams that are getting the information out there with all this stuff. It's usually agents.
Which is why this year you see on so many.
He went to announce on McAfee. It's not getting out there.
Which is why now you see all these, things go out on X.
Said he's on Tuesdays, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's on there tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just catch the clips of it. I don't actually watch the show. So thanks, Wes, that said that he was there. That it's Tuesdays, but I wouldn't be shocked if he shows up tomorrow and does it. But yeah. Okay.
Whatever.
So, yeah. To me, the Justin Fields thing is I thought the number I had in my head for Justin Fields is actually what was reported that the Steelers offered him. I'm like, offer him a 2-year deal, 15 a year. I would feel that's the number I had in my head that I said that's why I wanted Justin Fields, is because I felt anybody else would be much more expensive and not that much better. I'm not saying Justin Fields was going to be great, but he also wasn't proven to get a ton more than that. That's why that was my number one option at the price that the Steelers reportedly did. He got more, so I get what he's doing. We'll see how he does in New York. Maybe he'll do better than they would have done in Pittsburgh. We'll probably never know. But my thing is this. If the Steelers have to pay twice as much as that, is there anybody out there that you feel is twice as good as Justin Fields?
No, there's not.
Same here.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why that's why. Sorry, Omar Khan, but you are now in a lose-lose. You are. He's in a lose-lose now. He can't win.
Yeah.
So, and if you really, really, really want to get down to it, Omar's Khan's chance of being in a winning situation, in a win-win type deal at the quarterback position for the Steelers this year, his chances of that were minuscule.
Yeah. I mean, the Steelers office itself didn't even agree on which quarterback they wanted to keep. It wasn't going to be very easy. And it's funny. There's been, I remember listening to Tomlin on talking on one thing about Omar, about how Omar, he wants to act on stuff more. And there's other stuff sometimes where it's very
tell Frosty again, he's got that wrong. Frosty, you got that wrong.
Yeah. They didn't decline Fields' fifth. That was declined before they got him.
The Bears declined the option, then traded him.
You know what? I think so. Or you know what? I might be wrong. I might be wrong about that. Maybe I'm misremembering that. So Frosty says he did double check. Okay. I was thinking that it was already, because I thought that the Bears did it early. Because they didn't have to yet. The deadline wasn't up. I don't remember what the deadline is this year because the Steelers don't have anyone to do it because it would have been picked.
No, I'm thinking about it, Dave. Wasn't there the talk that they were going to, and then they traded him? Not that they actually had done it. They were going to.
Gotcha. And that was the other thing. It was $25 million.
For the 5th-year option. Yes.
I wouldn't have done that last year either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So I'm trying to remember. I was trying to remember if it was. What I'm recalling is that it wasn't really an issue. Was it the issue that it was already done and decided, and the Steelers didn't really have any say? Or now that he's saying it, I'm starting to say, you know what? I think that might be what it was. That it was just so much money that there was no way they were going to do it when he wasn't even going to be the starter. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on. We don't need to worry about that one. That was just something somebody brought up. But yeah, that was a good point. I want to go ahead and put this out here because it was out here a long time ago. Occam's Ox had a super chat for us. $4.99 a tip jar. Really appreciate it. He says, I'm putting Joe Flacco's name in the mix. Younger than Rodgers, taller than Russ, knows the division, has a ring, can still throw the ball. What do you say to that, Rich?
When I say that, we'd be looking at 11, 12 years later. I'd have to have Kyle break back out the Count Flacula Halloween costume that he had as a kid to 1 year.
Hey, I put it out there in the Slack channel. I'm like, actually, right now, give me Mason Rudolph and Joe Flacco. I put it out there with a. At this point, I don't even know what to think when it comes to the Steelers at quarterback.
Look,
I don't think there's a very good option at all.
Well, look, you could say this, okay? What's Joe Flacco do really well? What's he do really well, Dave? He's always done well.
Win playoff games.
Throws the ball deep.
Yeah. Oh, because that's right. What's the Flacco plan? Throw it deep. He's looking more for a flag than he is of reception. Imagine him throwing deep to DK and GP.
And GP, right?
That would be-
so. I mean,
Yeah.
so I will say this, Hawkins. What you're saying to me, not out of the realm of possibility. Not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So I think it would. I mean, and here's the thing: you can't look at Aaron Rodgers and say that his numbers were terrible last year. They weren't what they have been in the past. The year before doesn't count because he was hurt the whole season. So you look at those kind of things with Aaron Rodgers, and you're like, wow, maybe he does still have it. But the other thing is, he might have had a lot of numbers last year. How many games did they win?
4, 5, whatever.
5.
Yeah.
And remember, they were favored in Pittsburgh because everyone was all up on, they got Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers. Look at what that's going to do. You talk about fizzle. That fizzled fast. I mean, they had lost 3 games in a row, and they come into Pittsburgh as favorites when the Steelers were sitting there. That was what? That was Russ's first game. So the Steelers were at 4-2. And the Jets were 2-4, and they come in as favorites because everyone's like, oh, they lost to the Bills. They lost to the Vikings. You know, they lost by a point to the Broncos because they can only score 9. And they lost to the 49ers. You look back and you're like, yeah, all those teams were playoff teams except the 49ers. But they beat the Texans 2 weeks after the Steelers, but they ended up after that Steelers game, including the Steelers game, we'll say, they ended up going 1-6 in their next 7 games. So, and they only won 3 games after that. So that's another thing to remember. So it's I'll be honest. Okay, go ahead, Rich.
Dylan Enterline, I had to bring this up.
Yeah.
So, because he says, Uncle Rico, he can throw over mountains. He can come in, throw the deep ball to GP and DK.
Yeah. I can tell you this right now. There is not going to be a quarterback that is signed by the Steelers for this season unless they make a trade or a quarterback suddenly gets cut that you didn't expect, not one that's available right now. There's not one that's going to unite the fan base. There just isn't.
No, there's not one out there. I don't even think in a trade. I don't even think anywhere. They're no. But honestly, there wasn't from the beginning. Which is why I said Omar Khan kind of was in a lose-lose when it came to the quarterback position, no matter what, because it's just not there.
Yeah. It's funny. Someone says here, the deal says, Purdy. Nope. I don't think I think he was good because he was Mr. Irrelevant and the expectations were low. I don't think he's been up to the hype.
His game's not Purdy.
Yeah. No, his game wasn't. Last year's game wasn't pretty. Wes H said, well, the majority of the fan base hates Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. I'm not.
No, never have been.
No, never have been. But the question is.
But I also despise Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
It's almost when you're talking guys like that, that's almost like saying, hey, we're going to get Tom Brady come out of retirement and chuck it down the field to these guys. No. I hate that. Yeah. Doesn't mean I'm not going to root for the Steelers because I got sick of watching fans say, if they sign Rodgers, I'm not watching. It's like, no. If they sign Rodgers, I'm going to be like, okay, what are they thinking? Okay, this is a stopgap. Just try to get us through. Whatever.
I'll be honest, it's going to be hard for me to be excited about the season. Like I put this in the Slack channel. I have the opportunity as a season ticket holder to enter the lottery for tickets to Dublin. At the game in Dublin. The time hasn't passed yet. If Aaron Rodgers is the Steelers quarterback, I don't think I want to throw out that kind of money to make that kind of trip. I wouldn't be excited enough about it. But then again, I don't know that any quarterback's going to make me excited about it either. So, and then someone, like Mark Malone says, he's like, what if it were Fields? I'm like, was Fields the right guy once they got DK Metcalf? You really have to ask that. I mean, Here's what's here. This is how bad it is, Rich. This is how bad it is. I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to open myself up, and I'm sure plenty of people are going to really criticize this. At the end of the season, when the Steelers were done, they fell apart. They lost the last 5 games. I'm like, whatever you do, just don't run it back with Russ. Just don't do it. You got to do something different. You tried, didn't. Okay. At this point, with what's left, only because it's with what's left, that's one of my top 3 options. Honestly. And I would just say, I would get so frustrated if they just signed Russell Wilson. But if they just made the decision to sign Russ before anything with free agency and whatnot, I really would have been mad. But now, seeing what's out there, I'm like, you at least know what you have. You can at least build on what you were doing. He has a very familiar receiver, one of his best friends. I mean, my goodness, him and his wife set up DK and his wife. I'm not saying it's what I want. I'm just saying that it's actually looking, is this the ultimate con job? And I don't mean like Omar Khan, to where people are like, not Russ, not Russ, not Russ. And then it gets to be such a bad market left for quarterback that you're like, come on, give us Russ. I'm almost to that point. So, but once again, I don't want to pay Russ twice as much as what Fields got. That's the thing, because he's not twice as good. Aaron Rodgers isn't twice as good, in my opinion. Now, where he is at this 42 years old? So it's just like, I'm all on board. And I was this way to start, but now the options are coming more clear. I'm more on board with, let's just go cheap at the position again like they did last year and build. And you know what?
Yeah.
And if you don't use all your cap space, roll it into next year to build more. So I don't want the Steelers to overpay a quarterback for someone that isn't the answer. Because I've said this for a while. The starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers 3 years from now is not in the mix to be the quarterback right now. The only one who could have possibly been would have been Justin Fields if he did that and played exceptionally well. Other than that, I don't think anyone else is could be a long-term answer.
You know, folks are throwing out there, so I'm just going to bring one up, bring up to the point you just made. Okay, if your options are to pay Aaron Rodgers $45 million per year for 2 years, which is
just to hear that
what
makes
he's
me throw up
asking.
in my mouth a little bit,
right? And get 9 wins, or bring back Mason Rudolph.
Give me Rudolph
and get 7 wins.
Yeah.
I say take Rudolph and get the 7 wins.
Yeah.
And save the money. Because
yeah,
Aaron Rodgers isn't it.
And it's not because I want the Steelers to be cheap. It's because there aren't good options.
At the kind of money that some of these guys want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just... Yeah, I know the live chat's flying. I can't even begin to keep up with it tonight.
I can't either. But it's great. It's good.
But that's the thing. I'm not going to be overly upset with whoever the Steelers decide on if they're not overpaying. That's the thing. I don't want them to overpay. Okay. If I'm the one choosing, but my thing is, no matter who they sign and whoever is out there, I'm going to want them to play well because I'm going to want the Pittsburgh Steelers to win, even if I don't like them. And that's why I'm like, are we looking at is Aaron Rodgers, if he ends up with the Steelers, if I want to try to spin it in a good way, I'm like, is he nothing more than a Hines Ward or a Ray Lewis or I'm trying to think of somebody else. One of those players that you despise, that all other teams despise, but their team loves. Now, I don't think he is, but I just put, Hines Ward was hated in the NFL by other fans. except for Pittsburgh Steelers fans because we knew how freaking awesome he was. So that's something to remember there.
There's also remember this, okay? In the end, there is a plan. Now, the Steelers are probably already past Plan A. But if you tell me they didn't have at least to Plan E in place for what they might do, I'd be surprised.
Yeah. The problem is, I think if Rodgers, I mean, apparently even Sam Darnold was reportedly an option. Don't know. I mean, the Steelers weren't going to pay him what he got.
No.
I would have felt a little bit better about Darnold than I did before the DK Metcalf trade, because I'm like, wow, he had those receivers and did well. How's he going to do without those receivers?
Yeah.
But then it was because when you look at it. So, but I wasn't going to pay what ended up being over 33 a year for him. It's just and the opinions are all over the place. We see them right here in the live chat. The opinions are real.
Because Eric says, hey, we shouldn't be down to a Plan E. Eric, you have to remember, okay, just because the Steelers have it as a plan, you got to remember, the Steelers have a plan for free agency in general. And so do 31 other teams.
Yeah.
And you tell me that a lot of those plans don't overlap? Of course they overlap.
Yeah.
So then it comes down to, who wins or who pays or who, And I think the Steelers really work hard to make sure that, they evaluate their talent. They evaluate talent and they say, we're going to do this. We'll go this far.
John Walter says Plan E equals emergency, which is true. If you want to Plan E,
correct.
But trust me, they at least knew what it was.
Yes.
And the problem is, if they're waiting on Plan B or Plan C or whatever it is right now, and they're dragging the feet and you're losing out on Plans E, or let's say they went to Plan H, E, F, and G because of you know what I'm saying? That's my biggest concern.
Correct.
How long do you continue to just with everything? And I mean, it's I remember how much the Steelers or Jeff wanted the Steelers to trade up for Trey Lance forever ago. He's a free agent,
Yeah.
You've got the potential trade for Joe Milton in New England. The big rumor right now is Kyler Murray on the trading block? My problem is, how much do you have to give up to get a player like that?
Yeah.
So, yeah. There, John Walter, Plan H equals help.
Yep. Hey, and you were like, how much do you give up for a player like that? That's where I think this really comes down to, a cost analysis and an ROI.
Return
on investment. Yeah.
Yes.
So
I always say CAR. Cost above replacement is what I like to do when you're talking about those other kind of things. So yeah. Because someone said before, I actually wanted to double check. They're like, oh, well, what about the guaranteed money that Rodgers had no guaranteed money for this year. He had no guaranteed money for 2025. And then people are like, well, is Kirk Cousins going to get released? Kirk Cousins, if they gave him a non-post-June 1st release, would cost them $25 million more than what it would be to be on the roster. If they did him as a post-June 1st cut, they would cost them in salary cap space the exact same amount as if he was on the roster as if he wasn't. So there's really unless they just don't want him around, there's really no benefit to that. So, yeah. Unless he gets says he'll rework his deal to then be really about. I don't think they're allowed. I don't know if they're allowed to do that. Rich, we're running late. Any more you want to talk about that? I mean, because this is really what we're waiting for. Because how the quarterback situation, it's the most important position in professional sports. I'm still saying a quarterback's more important than a goalie in hockey. I'll say that. Plus, it's, just football is bigger. It's just, I feel like this is holding up other things. It really is. But we'll see. Anything more you want to say about it here?
No, other than just everybody stay patient, stay patient. We would have liked to seen probably a couple. Well, really, I think we can all agree we would have liked to have known what was going on quarterback wise for the Steelers by this point. Unfortunately, we don't. Hang in there. It will happen. And when it happens, there are going to be some people that see the silver lining in it. There are people that are only going to see the rain clouds. And there are people that are just going to look at it and be like, eh. And you know what? They're probably all going to be valid.
Yeah.
In one way or the other. So just remember that with your fellow Steeler fans when that all comes down.
And honestly, what would make me like whatever they choose the most, it's going to come down to money is what's going to make me whether I like it or not. And I know some people don't like the money that they gave DK. I'm like, but you're talking 5 years at that? Think of how much bigger the salary cap is going to be 3 years from now, let alone 5 years from now. So that's part of what it is. Rich, did you have a 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk for tonight?
What was it my turn?
It was your. If not, we could hold you off till next week because I have something.
I kind of.
One was going to be semi.
Okay, you go ahead.
Stuff. Okay, and it would only work this week, and that is I wear this. It's not that I don't ever wear this shirt. I wore this shirt specifically tonight. It's my faith, family, Pittsburgh football shirt, and I wore that in honor of someone that we lost this week, Craig Wolfley.
Yes.
Rather than talk non-Steelers, I would rather take this time and talk about Wolfley and that kind of part of the Steelers, one way or another. Because to me, I met Craig Wolfley. I met him at a fan blitz. I told this a little bit on the because we talked about it on the One Breaking News podcast. That it was 2017. It was raining. And I was like, oh, let's go to the special season ticket only thing. We had just missed TJ Watt had just been there like 5 minutes before. He had just been drafted by the Steelers that year. And that's what I was informed by Craig Wolfley and Bill Hillgrove. And we're like, oh, man. And our brother-in-law and his oldest son and my oldest son, they were too chicken to go talk. So instead, I took my daughter and our brother-in-law's oldest daughter, and we went over to talk to Bill Hillgrove and Craig Wolfley. They were just sitting at a taller table on brace, almost like bar stools with backs, And that's when they told us that TJ just left. And because we were just there, because we missed him, they were just happy talking with us. Signed a picture for each of us. So I've got a signed Craig Wolfley picture. And it was really just both of them. You could see something with Wolf, especially as a former player, that there was something special with him, and just the kind-hearted guy that he was. Sorry, I took a little bit of time.
That's all right.
I was trying to let you gather your thoughts.
I also know that you had kind of brought this up before as well, that you kind of remembered him and Tunch, as
yes.
Steelers. I do.
You really do.
I really do.
Yeah.
They were the offensive line I grew up with. Mm-hmm. The two of them.
That was before I knew anything about offensive line.
And the fact that they then stuck around the team as commentators to me was huge. Just told me how much the guys love the city, love the organization, love the game of football. And it was always obvious from both Tunch and Wolf, just their passion Okay, and that's what I love most about them. Then, as their commentators, was their passion for football, their passion for football knowledge, their love of the fans, and especially Pittsburgh Steeler fans. It was tough to lose Wolf because now we've lost Wolf, lost Tunch. Hillgrove doesn't call games. Retired. Myron Cope's gone. Jack Fleming's gone. All the big time guys that I knew.
I mean, we just
calling
lost
Steeler
Mike
football.
Lang. You
Right.
gave him his tribute too.
Correct,
With the Penguins.
and it's like they're gone. It's tough, but it's always that way. So there will be change, and things will be okay in terms of the Steelers and their broadcasts and their folks, and that will be good. But going to miss Wolf because he was colorful.
Oh yeah.
There were a lot of folks.
He's so excited.
There were a lot of guys that
excited.
always liked Tony Siragusa, right?
Yeah.
That's Wolf.
Yeah.
He and Goose were two of a kind, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss him. So
Yeah. Because here's another thing. I talked to Wolf even more before that time, because before I was part of BTSC, now SCN, I used to call in a good bit to Wolf and Tunch in the locker room. I would. So if you ever listen to them, you might have heard me on there. I remember the one time, well, I can remember two specific ones. One, they had Will Allen on there, and I just said real quick that I wanted how much I appreciated him, because that was the first Steelers game I ever took my dad to, was the Detroit game, where after Renegade, he got an interception. So I said that there. But I remember talking to them ahead of the Steelers game in Kansas City that they had to reschedule because of the ice storm, and telling them, like, you guys would be surprised how cheap the tickets are you can get right now. And they're like, really? I said, I got it right here in front of me. I'm like, you could get in a playoff game for this, because people were worried about getting there and then they ended up moving the game. But yeah, I would call in and talk to them there. It was apparently he had just announced recently that he had cancer. We don't know what form. And apparently that's what it was. But those guys both gone too soon.
too soon.
So, a little bit of your childhood, even younger adulthood fandom dies a little bit when somebody like that passes away. So, I don't know. I don't know what the Steelers are going to do. For those who are wondering who's going to, they'll get to that eventually.
Yep.
Right now, it's all right just to miss him. So, and I do. So I just I know that was still Steelers talk, but I just thought that was not the typical Steelers talk, getting away from everything else. Rich, you ready for the big question?
Lay it on me.
This one might take a while. Hey, I'm telling you, I will not bring it up if you give me a long answer, people. So remember the rules here. I ask Rich the big question. He answers it. I answer it. Then I put it out in the live chat for you all to answer it. If you put it in there before I put it out there, I'm not going to bring it up. If you give me a big explanation, I'm not going to bring it up. I only want the answer. I'm just saying, I might still say what you said, but I'm just asking for an answer. I'm not wanting to have, because it's just going to take too long. Rich, I can't remember if it was this show, if it was with Greg, if it was with Jeff and Brian. Say, what's exciting is that this time next week we'll know who the Steelers quarterback is. I don't know if I said that to you.
No, because I'd have said no, because I'd have cut you off and said, "Will we?" No, there's no guarantee we will.
So my question is this: hopefully, we would know it another week from now. Who's gonna be the player in the pole position for the Steelers quarterback job when it all gets said and done and it all shakes out? Who they going to sign? Who's it going to be? Whether you like it or not, who's it going to be?
Okay, I'll go with
Like I said, not who you want.
No,
Who's it going to be?
The thing for me is that there's no front runner. There's no,
Yeah.
this is more likely than anything else.
So take a shot.
So I'm just going to take a shot, and honestly, I could even give you contract numbers. You ready? You know,
You don't have to, but you can if you want. Yeah.
how about Joe Flacco for 2 years at 30 mil and 18 guaranteed?
Okay. So basically, Justin Fields numbers. See, I don't know if they'd have Flacco, even if we would know he would be the starter. To me, you know who I'm going to go with? I know a lot of people are saying that's Rodgers. It could be. I'm going to go a little bit of a dark horse. I'm actually going to say it's Russ. I'm not saying I'm going to like it, but I have a feeling it could very well just be Russ. I'm putting it out there now for you all to answer of who the quarterback is going to be for 2025. So here we go. Frosty the Bear, he put the numbers in there. I'm not going to read them because I said I won't. But he said Wilson. Eric, is it Weidman or Weedman? I'm going to say Weidman. Says Wilson. Gabriel Gold, he's going with Ben. He's going Big Ben with an LOL. Kyle Smith says Rodgers. Mark Malone says Mason Rudolph. You know, I would not be opposed to that. Steel Dog 88 says it's a trade for Cousins. Okay. Kathy says Russ. Kathy Forward. Sorry, I'm going to give you full credit there, Kathy. BF Bud. Except we all know who Kathy is when we say Kathy, don't we? Okay. She's part of the Steelers family. BF Bud says Rodgers. TD, Tom Dessenberger, says Rodgers, I think. Gavin Anthony, going outside the box. Taylor Heineke. Okay. This is some Rodgers fan, number 12, says Aaron Rodgers. Sebastian Sanchez said Flacco. Well, he said it would be great, so I'm assuming that was his answer. Reginald Rivers says Wilson. Wes says Russell Wilson. You know, and he mentions that it's familiarity would be a big reason to have him. All right, so Dwayne Grassbaugh, I think I got that right, says Russ. Craig J. Lawson, he's going out of the limb. He's going with the Jeremy Betts. Jeremy Betts would say Kyler Murray. Okay. JC says Wilson. Ram says Mason. I'm assuming that's Rudolph. That's what I'm going with. I can't think of anyone who ends with his last name is Mason. That's a quarterback that's out there. Anthony Godwin says Russell. Rob Owen says Bubby Brister. Dale Dennison says Wilson. Rob King says Russ. I didn't think many people would say Russ. That's why I went with it. Really? Okay. Sherry Richards says Mac Jones. So there we go. Ron Owens, you already had your one joke. I'm not bringing it up again. So there we go. That one's a long explanation, so it doesn't come up. John S. says Joe Milton. Okay. And like someone else said, Mac Jones already signed somewhere. Dale Dennison says Mac Jones signs with Miami. I knew he signed somewhere. I just couldn't remember where. John Walter says Russ Wilson. We'll put it that way. Kyle Smith says, wait, I take mine back. Malik Willis. I know Andrew
Wilbar.
We have to bring back the video.
We would. We'd have to bring back the video.
That it was Pickett over Willis. Yeah, neither one of them worked that. Sam Jonesy says Rodgers. And that was a lot. We have over 200 people, you know, about 225 people here watching one place or another tonight. So that's pretty good. But Steel Dog 88 says already answered, but to be funny, trade for Kenny Pickett, because we didn't talk about Kenny Pickett getting traded to the Browns. And like I said, Kenny Pickett brings something to the Browns that they've never had. That would be a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. I think these were people that. Oh, I think this is a different one. Sorry, the Dylan Enterline says. Now that's pronounced Schuck, is what I've been told in the draft. The question is, is he going to be there in round 3? Because the Steelers don't have a round 2 pick anymore, and round 1 would just be like, woo. Okay. Yeah. So it could be a trade. It could be a signing. It could be the draft. It's going to be crazy. Let's just say this: next week we wouldn't know that if it's someone in the draft. So, but yeah. But I get what you're saying. Whew, Rich, it's been a crazy night. that I can't believe we started the show off with the breaking news of the Steelers agreeing to terms with Kenneth Gainwell, the running back. The more I think about that, the more I like it, because I think that is an upgrade to Patterson. And I think he could be a good fit, and I think he could kick return. Make sure you're checking out SteelCurtainNetwork.com. We've had a lot of action there the last couple of days. We'll continue to bring you the news. We'll continue to bring you the breakdown. I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you this right now. The only way I'm going to feel better about whatever quarterback the Steelers go with, it would take two things. One, the numbers working out when it comes to contract. And two, KT Smith giving me the breakdown at SteelCurtainNetwork.com.
There you go.
That would make me feel better, because that's just how it would be. Because that's what he does. That's what he does. So make sure you check. He had a great DK Metcalf article that was there today. Like I said, I'll have all the draft picks outlined with everything for that the Steelers have tomorrow. And if there's news, we'll break it. We'll get it there. And we might, I'd love to be back for the breaking news podcast for the Steelers, but first they've got to do something. We'll see what it is. Rich, what do you have to say to close this out tonight?
Hey, just want to bring up something real quick. So from Frosty, because he put a couple things in the live chat tonight, and he sent us thanks, filling a huge brother gap. We got you, Frosty. We're here to do that kind of stuff for folks.
Did you see what he had said earlier? What it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was his brother who's not with him anymore. It would have been his birthday then. Yeah.
Yep. So we get it. People, you all have been there for us through things like that, and we're here for you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we are. As we call ourselves the family show, and not just because we're a couple brothers, but we really do consider you all kind of family. So, hey, things are going for the Steelers. There's been some stuff been done. Is it exactly what everybody wanted? No. Guess what? If I recall correctly, a year ago this time, we were sitting here saying the same kinds of things.
Yeah.
We were. So hang in there. It's coming. The Steelers will get it figured out. They have a plan for how they're going to work on filling out their roster. Is it exactly what everybody wants? No. Will it work? Yes. Could it have been better? Yes. But it will all play out in the end, and everything will be fine. And we'll not even be thinking about tonight when training camp starts.
That's right.
So this is just for now. And I get some of the frustrations going on with it right now, because we've been sitting around for 6-ish or so weeks with nothing. And it's like, come on, Steelers, give us something.
Nothing but 5 straight losses.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but we'll get there. And everything will come along. And, here at Steel Curtain Network, between podcasts and writing, we're going to be here to bring the stuff to you guys as it happens. I'm still waiting, Dave. I'm not sure when I'm ready to write another worthless 2 cents. There is a chance I might write one come Thursday. Mm-hmm. It may wait till Sunday or Monday before I get into, because I got to have enough go on in free agency for me to have a worthless 2 cents.
Exactly.
We'll be looking to do those things, but one thing is guaranteed: come next Tuesday, Dave and I will be right back here. We hope you will be too. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.